Fire away.
Feel good? Need to stretch or anything?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Always. At any given time.
This is a phenomenon that happens when you get older. Like, stretching now becomes like an enjoyable experience. You just
Hell
need to
no,
do
it's
to
not
move.
enjoyable.
Yeah, what?
No,
Yeah.
I do.
So you've not hit the threshold yet. Is what's
Is that what
happening.
it is? Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I never like stretching.
Oh, it's the worst.
Like, I have to stretch, though.
Yeah, so do I. That's and yes.
I feel so much better after I stretch.
Yeah, well, not me.
No? It just hurts more?
Yeah. It's like, well, that beating is over.
Morale improved.
Yeah.
Speaking of beating,
Uh-oh.
not that kind.
Uh-oh. Lonely weekend?
So, yeah. So in baseball, this one player goes out during batting practice. He's on one team. Goes out during the other team's batting practice and confronts their left fielder and gives him the old Will Smith.
Oh.
And they're like, what the hell? And so come to find out, he's mad because they were in a fantasy league team last year in football. And he didn't like the way the guy made his transactions. Felt like he was, quote unquote, fucking with his money.
So he went up and Zsa Zsa Gabored him about a
Yes.
fantasy league
Yes.
that happened.
I mean, no telling how much their entry is into a professional baseball player's fantasy league. But dude got suspended for 3 days over it. But
He's going to be the Pete Rose of the 21st century.
fantasy football is a huge thing in
no, trust.
baseball circle, like within the players. Like they have all kinds of leagues.
Oh, yeah, no, like our buddy Jason Wood, like he runs 2 or 3 like field leagues. Before pre-stupid decisions to go to law school, I did like, fantasy football leagues and stuff like that, but there's like fantasy everythings.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, it's ridiculous. Like people have made their livings off of fantasy like events.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. But
I tried it, and I did not enjoy it at all.
here's what happened for me. I've been in different leagues throughout time, and most of them I was in were free leagues.
Yeah.
And so about halfway through the season, people quit updating their teams, and so it gets real boring because there's really like playing somebody that's got like 5 people that are sitting out that week, and it's like,
Yeah. I have a bad habit of having an obsessive personality, which means I'll take my hobbies that I really enjoy and turn them into things that are just
Yeah, you make
obligations
spreadsheets
and
about them
jobs.
and-
Yeah, and so like that's one of the reasons. Like I just need to keep it a hobby, kind of like my comics reading hobby, where I couldn't just be a fan. I had to start or co-start, I should say, a podcast such as this one, which is the Southern Fried Geek Crew podcast, and we would like to welcome you back to another fun-filled episode as we 3. All back again together. It feels good. It feels right. It feels nice. We sit around the table and we wax poetic, dive deep, get into the substance of it all, of this sequential medium that we know and love. So we're glad you can join us. As usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
and I'm Craig Lance.
And
Caleb said his name. He picked up his phone like he was looking for notes. I'm like,
I've got a spreadsheet to let me know what my name. I had to make sure it's as usual in case it didn't change. Actually, technically it is now. It's Caleb Alexander McKenzie JD. But I'm just going to throw that one in there.
That's like all the letters.
we're gonna hear that forever now.
JD/ESQ. It can't be ESQ yet. It will be though. No, I was just checking my phone, making sure everything was up to date. The real secret to what I was doing, it's a little behind the scenes magic, is I was checking my podcast feed so I could make sure that this was in fact episode 231 of this show that we have done week after week for the last couple of years. It is the highlight of my week. I hope it is for you guys at home. You fine folks who listen to this. And speaking of the fine folks at home listening to this, I got to give a shout out real quick before we really get started. For those of you who live in kind of central Arkansas, or maybe just in Arkansas in general, you will know that there is a little local newspaper. I say newspaper, it's more of an online presence, but it's called the Arkansas Times. And every year they get together and they have what they call the Best of Arkansas, where people nominate the best restaurants and they'll vote on them, and the best nonprofits and they'll vote on them, and the best this and the best that. Well, so two fun things. Number one, somebody nominated the Van for best nonprofit, so awesome. That's happy making. We've been nominated before, but we've always been to quote Aaron, the guy who runs it, we've been the bridesmaid, never the bride. So we're hoping this year we would love to get named. But someone also nominated Southern Fried Geekery as best podcast in Arkansas.
But why?
I don't know. Poor taste.
Man.
But hey,
We do appreciate it, though.
No, for sure. Like that was very. I was able to share it on Facebook. It made me proud. I legit don't know. This is not a situation where like we did it and then we're like, oh, this happened. But like legit don't know who did it. No one's reached out and said, hey, we nominated it. I don't really know how it works. But that does mean a lot. Besides the fact that people who aren't normally into maybe comic book podcasts or they don't know about us might see us in this thing. It just means it's pretty cool to get nominated. Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it is pretty
nice.
This little thing.
Thank
that we
you,
do.
whoever did that.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Keep listening. And if you want more of what we deliver in the podcast, you can always join us on our little Facebook group. Maybe you're not a member yet. You should. You should go pop in there and post. Just post everything. Crazy. Get your memes on. Post your news. Talk about Swan Holo with Craig. Just do whatever you want to do over there, man.
Swan Holo.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
I just felt like the right thing to say at the time. It might have not been. But you can do all that there. And if you want to see what we're reading, images that we're talking about, panels and stuff that we find interesting, jump over to our Instagram and our Twitter feed. Twitter feed's not so active anymore. But at SFG Podcast on both of those, or you can fire off an email to us. We're southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. All right. Everybody feel good?
Good
Talking
enough.
about some comics.
I'm awake. Does
Matt-
that count?
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
Step one.
I mean, I don't know. We should all be a little sleepy, I think, today. Maybe, a little cast of Dream came tossing its sand over us at some point. It's gonna play into what we talk about here in a little bit. But
That's
first,
foreshadowing.
It is.
Foreshadowing.
It's good fist bump. Yeah, literary terms. Awesome. And he calls me Mr. College. All right, so
I heard
before
it on
we...
That reminds me, I was in school, we read Tale of Two Cities.
Oh, sorry.
Not that old, Caleb. We read A Tale of Two Cities, and all my English teacher wanted to talk about was all the foreshadowing in that book. That was the big thing about that book. So
It is. It's a good example of it. I feel like they did that when I was in school as well. So I feel like that's just kind of like in the curriculum.
it's a good way to point out foreshadowing and teach kids foreshadowing because
nice.
Still one of my favorite books of all
It
time.
is a good book. Really good book. Speaking of good books, let's get our appetites. Let's get it going to talk about these comics and stuff.
Mr. Segway over there.
Hey, I did good this time. I would love to hear about some books, just real short, that you guys read this week. So why don't you fine gentlemen drop a short stack on me? Tell me about some stuff you read.
So I read Batman Fortress #1 by DC Comics. Gary Whitta wrote it. Derek Robertson did the art on it very well, I might say. Colors by Diego Rodriguez and lettering by Simon Bolin. I wasn't sure what this book was. I picked it up because honestly, it was kind of a light week in comics this week. And I picked it up and thought, well, what the hell, I'll give it a chance. Robertson's doing the art. It's going to be okay, at least from that level. It's an out-of-continuity book. We know this because Alfred's alive and Batman's still a billionaire. And it starts with the powers down in Gotham. And some hoodlums think that would be a perfect opportunity to break into Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
Little do they know that Alfred and Bruce Wayne are both there. They're easily disposed of. Especially when the one tries to steal Martha's pearls, which we know how Bruce feels about that. So,
It just seems like you didn't win anything that day.
No, they did not win. So, but one of them, he gives them an opportunity to leave, and he says, you can just put the stuff back and walk out. We're fine. And one of them says, I'm not going anywhere. I got 5 kids to feed. So Bruce knocks him out. Then he tells Alfred, check and see if that story's real. If it is, make sure the foundation gives them some money.
Aww.
So come to find out that the blackout is not just Gotham-wide. It's worldwide.
Oh.
So you have 7 billion people without power. And Batman, of course, asked Alfred any word from the Boy Scout. And no. Well, what about the rest of the league? No, haven't heard from anybody. So not only is the world power out, the
Communications.
there's no the Justice League is unavailable for whatever reason. So, of course, he has to take care of Gotham first. And Arkham has been upgraded with electronic locks. Whoops. So he has to go capture all of his foes before he can even begin to think about helping the rest of the world. So pretty good first issue.
I would like to point out before he moves on that it is a $3.99 Batman book. Very uncommon in today's
I was going to say,
Yeah. And it's not, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's a good book. I enjoyed it.
Like you said, Derek Robinson on art is always worth flipping through. I mean, that's worth the price of admission.
Then second book I read here was Thor number 25. This is Donny Cates, Martin Cocola, I guess is how you say his name. Matt Wilson and Joe Sabino are the creators on this. This is part 2 of the Banner of War saga. Did you guys read this?
Yes.
issue?
Yeah, I've read up to that point.
Okay.
No.
So Tony Stark has made up his mind he's going to join in the fight. And regardless of what Cap says, and Cap's trying to talk him out of it, and he's talking to Iron Man's armor, and he says, wait, you aren't even here, are you? And Tony Stark responds with, I never attend these meetings in person. And he launches his new Hulkbuster out into space. It's got Odin is still trying to figure out what's going on, because in the first part of Banner of War, Odin entered into Bruce Banner's consciousness to try and figure out what the hell is going on with Bruce Banner and what happened in Oklahoma. No, El Paso, Texas. And we get to find out what happened in El Paso, Texas in this issue. And basically everybody there, Bruce imagined that they turned into Hulks. And he killed every one of them. So
was not good.
It was not good. So then Tony shows up and kind of screws everything else up,
as he's wont to do.
My third book is Nightwing number 92. This is Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo, Adriano Lucas, who is fabulous on colors as always, and Wes Abbott on letters. Are you guys reading Nightwing? Either one of you?
No.
I'm not, but I regret not, because I've heard nothing but amazing things from you, and now that it's got like all the Eisner noms in the world, like it's one of those things I'm going to have to grab in collections.
It's been fantastic since Tom Taylor joined on, and the premise of it right now is that Dick has all of Alfred's money. Alfred, when he died, and he's trying to make Bloodhaven a better place. Beyond just being a crime fighter.
Right.
He's trying to use the money as Dick Grayson to make it a better place. And there's a flashback scene to him as Robin getting his ass kicked because he didn't do what Bruce told him to, because he couldn't not help some people. And then we jump forward to the opening of Haven, which is his little park that's a safe haven for troubled teens and so forth that they've been trying to keep shut down. And he's opening it anyways, and the guy threatens him and says, I can't believe you're opening this by yourself. Last time you did something like this, you got shot in the head. And he says, oh, well, of course Bruce is there because it's an opening. He's supporting his son, and Bruce gets in the way and says, who are you threatening? And Dick pulls him off and says, don't worry about it. I'm not opening this alone. And Superboy shows up, or current Superman, I guess. John shows up, and he's actually doing the grand opening. And he's like, he's not scared of your bullets.
Yeah.
So
I like the interplay that's been happening between them. And Tom's writing both the books, but he, the stuff that he's doing with Superman right now, because Nightwing has shown up in that book too. So some really cool relationship happening right there.
Well, what you're seeing is that the Titans are a tight-knit group even in their own books, because Flash is helping
and
Dick in this. Yes.
Yeah.
He's helping Dick in this, and then you've got John showing up to help with the opening. Flash is on security. He's running around the place just repeatedly making sure no one comes in that's not supposed to. So this tight-knit group that is the Titans that kind of, gets forgotten. Tom Taylor's doing a wonderful job, as you said, of weaving them into each other's books and making them a team even when they're not a team.
See, as far as continuity goes, that makes you want to read the books like line wide. So, all right, dude. Well,
so Nightwing is legit one of my favorite Bat books going on right now, or Bat family books.
Yeah, it's getting all the love. So I need to, like I said, I need to go back and grab trades and stuff. Eisner nods aren't everything, but when a book's grabbing like 5 of them at a time, somebody likes it. So it's grabbing. It's got
everybody I know that's reading it loves it. So.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Well, all right, Matt, what'd you read this week?
So for me, starting off my short stack from Marvel, this is Moon Knight number 11 by Jed MacKay, Alessandro Capuccio, Raphael Rosenberg, and Corey Pettit. This is part 1, so this is starting a new storyline in this run. And this is all about a local villain calling himself the Zodiac, who's just got a real hard-on for Moon Knight in his midnight mission, and just wants to tear it all down. And he's got a very Deadpool-esque kind of sense of humor.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting, in this world.
I really like all the like side characters that he's worked into this.
Really?
Yeah. So like, I mean, ones we know, like Tigra, like I love seeing her hanging out in and out, but also just kind of new ones, like his new assistant who's a vampire. Really like that character a lot. Like he's doing a great job with that.
Second on my short stack, also from Marvel, as is all 3 of my books, I just realized, is Punisher number 3. Creative team on this is Jason Aaron, Jesus Sayas, and Paul Ezekta. Color is Dave Stewart, and Corey Pettit did the letters on this one as well. Man, I think every issue, Jason Aaron and team are intent on getting darker with every issue, because things are hella dark in this one. And the cover is really confusing, but it makes all the sense when you read the book.
Is that Puck?
That is a child in a Captain America mask.
Oh, okay.
Like a Halloween mask.
Gotcha.
Like the old plastic masks,
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Gotcha.
You kind of, you figure out that's what that is as you read the book. But
maybe he's pouting because Tony didn't listen to him in Thor.
I don't know what that means. So this is like, this is getting more and more. This is definitely without subtext portraying Frank Castle as a wanton murderer,
right?
And where the seeds of that were planted, and it weren't in the park that one day, is basically what that one's about.
Right.
Third of my short stack is Hulk number 7, obviously from Marvel. This is Banner War Part 3. Donnie Cates, Martin Cuculo, and Matt Wilson. So for me personally, Shark jumped.
Really? That's unfortunate.
Okay. That doesn't, be
interested to see what y'all think about this one.
It's on my stack to read today. So
yeah, I've got it at home. Like I said, I've read the Thor issue, and I liked the Thor issue, but again, I was like, okay, and, Craig did he didn't mean to earlier, but he's like, oh, what happened in Oklahoma? I mean, El Paso. It just feels like a lot of stuff that we've gotten before that's getting repackaged, which, happens a lot in comics. But I thought that, I've liked his Thor run. I haven't liked his Hulk run that much at all. I'm still reading it. It's fun. It's fine. But it like from the get-go, it seems like the shark was getting jumped.
We knew that it was going to be very, very hard to follow up.
Yeah.
The last Hulk run. But yeah, it's definitely a different take on the Hulk.
Different flavor.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Choices were made.
Choices were made. I have not read this issue yet.
Yeah, so. I look forward to next week to hear what you guys think.
Yeah,
I'll for sure let you know. We'll check back in. All right, so I'll start with the House of Ideas. I don't have any Marvel books on my stuff this week. I'm the lone man out on
Wow.
that. I know.
I only
right?
had one.
The fuck?
I had 2 DC in.
I grabbed from the Distinguished Competition the Jurassic League, number 1. This is by Daniel Warren Johnson, Juan Gedeon, and Mike Spicer on the colors. This was fantastic. It was fun. Obviously, from the title Jurassic League, as Craig pointed out in one of his books, this is an out-of-continuity story.
What?
And it's the type of insane, crazy story that that Daniel Warren Johnson loves to tell. And so this takes the conceits of the big DC characters, right? Like all of these monolithic things we know, and it uses them in a world that is, there are anthropomorphic dinosaurs that walk around and talk and do things, and like all the heroes are, Batman is a type of, I'm assuming a Tyrannosaurus Rex is what he looks like, although he's smaller. Superman is kind of a Brontosaurus. Wonder Woman is a Triceratops. They show different types.
I'm sold. How about you?
Yeah, man.
I don't do drugs, so I miss a lot of things.
But it's like it's that kind of crazy, just off the cuff, ridiculous story that Daniel Warren Johnson loves to tell. I mean, Wonder Woman Dead Earth did some similar things.
Whoever did that, also foreshadowing, whoever did that couldn't have done it in the house in the book we're about to read in, because it could have caused waking dreams.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. And would have murdered and terrified everybody. This is I'm probably wrong when I say this, but I don't remember any other book where... Hang on. Let me
How's that for a selling point?
No, I don't remember any other book that Daniel Warren Johnson just wrote. All the books that I've read by Daniel, he's wrote and drawn, or he's drawn and had somebody else write it. This one he's just writing, so that's where I say I may be wrong on this, but this may be his first book.
I can't think of one
where he's just but Juan Gedeon does a great job with this, and it's very much a getting the team together story. And they're all
that are dinosaurs.
They're dinosaurs,
super dinosaurs.
They're super dinosaurs.
They are.
Thank you for the
they
correction.
Are super dinosaurs, but they're all going.
They were regular dinosaurs. Holy shit, that'd be stupid.
I mean,
right. But they're super dinosaurs.
They just got to sit there in the rocks and be fossils.
Yeah.
But it does take place in that kind of prehistoric times where they are just kicking it. So it's fun. It's insane. It's ridiculous.
They're kicking it.
It's awesome.
Kicking it with their dinosaur feet.
Yeah.
And hey, they have to save the humans. That's how it gets perpetuated.
There's humans in this dinosaur story?
There are.
Oh, that is completely historically inaccurate.
In fact, Super Brontosaurus Man, he is raised by humans. Also, the
Kansas?
Joker is 100% a raptor. There's Raptor Joker, Raptor's a Jokosaurus or whatever he is. It's fucking weird.
I like their dinosaur pants.
They do have cool dinosaur pants. They have cool dinosaur gauntlets.
Yeah.
I want to ask the question: are the pants on just their hind legs and come up?
Yeah,
or
because
are they
they're
on their?
Yeah. They're anthropomorphic, right? So they walk like people. Now, I will say,
you knew where I was going.
The creators are smart. They do let you know that all the human talk is translated from human. So this takes place in Dino speak. So
Gotcha.
Second on my list comes from Image, and this is actually a twofer. So I read issue 1 and 2 on this because I just kind of grabbed it because I really, really enjoyed the cover art with this.
Gonna cheat.
No, I'm just going to talk about one. But I think the third issue is out now. I just don't have it. But this is Zombie vs. Robots Classics. This is written by Chris Ryall and drawn by Ashley Wood. And for me, the stories are fun and everything, but the Ashley Wood art is the go-to with this. But the whole thing is fun. So essentially the conceit here is that, humans existed. They made robots to do all kinds of robot-y things. But the robots could not contend with the ego of mankind. So these three scientists make a portal, and they're going to go off and explore things. And at first, they were like, let's send the robots. But the one scientist was like, no, this is my discovery. I will do it. He goes in. Terrible things happen. What comes out of the portal? Inevitably, zombies.
Inevitably?
Yeah.
Inevitably.
In the book.
As bound to happen.
This is just kind of what's going to happen, except the robots realize that, hey, the humans messed up, so the humans broke the third law, so they have to kill the humans. So what you're left with are zombies versus robots. It's really great. If you've ever seen Ashley Wood's style, the man can bounce back and forth between an incredibly, insanely sci-fi based painterly style, but you also get just this crazy aphractic use of like a graffiti style mixed with lots of zip tone. It's nuts. There are some artists that I could equivalent it to, but they wouldn't do it justice. Jim Mahfood maybe is the closest thing. But if you've never picked up a robots versus zombie books, just look at it, check it out. It'll treat your eyeballs nice. And then last but not least is a book that I grabbed. It's printed by IDW, but it is from an artist, a writer-artist that I'm a big fan of, a little graphic novel action, and that is, he's known as Shabuti, Shabute, or however you say it. And this is...
I like Shabuti better.
Shabuti,
too.
it's not Djibouti, it's Djibouti. And this is the book Yellow Cab. It's based on a novel by Benoit Cohen. So essentially, this book is all about this guy who he is a French immigrant who moves. Like he's living in New York City. He's established there. He's a filmmaker that's fairly successful, but is basically his idea well has run dry, and he's searching for that inspiration. So he looks around, and if you look around in New York City, the one thing that you're going to see are yellow cabs everywhere. So he comes up with the idea that, hey, I'm going to become a cabbie for a little bit, so I can like look at the city, meet random people, and inspiration will strike. And so the book is actually a story about the people of New York and about the class-based struggle of impoverished people as they come to New York. But it's told through the story of this guy who is, trying to get his license and all the rigmarole that he has to jump through, how much it actually costs for poor people to even be able to like start making money, and kind of the cycle of that. I guess that job, that career. But it's beautifully told. Very much a story where New York is a character in and of itself. And it's, if you've read a Shabuti book before, he has a great talent in isolating the themes and the tones of these stories. So check it out. It's very cool. Like I said, IDW, one of the better graphic novels I've read all year. So fun stuff.
And that's our episode for the week.
Bum, ba-da-bum. We're done.
Easy.
Can I go sleep now? Have dreams.
Something like that.
Have really crazy fun dreams. Wake up with that sand in your eyes.
Ooh.
That just kind of you got to rub off. You could wake up with worse things in your eyes, I guess.
Definitely.
So it is the last Sunday of the month, which means that this is our chaos episode, so to speak. And nothing says chaos like 2 weeks to prepare.
Exactly.
I love it. So we got Matt jumped on closer to the first of the month and said, hey, for our chaos episode this month, why don't we talk about a book that we all enjoy, we've all read before, we've spoke about it a little bit.
Totally have credit for it, man. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, was it not?
All the best ideas come from this side of the table. I don't like to make a big deal out of it, but
I thought Matt came up with this idea. Was it Craig?
no, Craig's dead weight here.
Oh boy.
That's a lot of dead weight.
Craig wanted to do the U.S. Agent Collected Edition.
Oh, no.
I did.
If you recall.
Oh, I have issues. Yeah, I'm gonna tap out now and let y'all handle that one without me, guys.
This was Craig's idea.
Okay, it was Craig's idea. Craig, I apologize.
I don't care, man.
Craziness has happened. So Craig came forward with his, I think Craig has like 3 strokes of brilliance a day. That's just what he does. And he said, hey, today one of my 3 will be to tell you guys that we are going to read the first 6 issues, the first arc of Neil Gaiman's famous thing. I say Neil Gaiman because over the entirety, it is Neil Gaiman that writes it all. He's the through line there. But this one is actually, it's not just Neil Gaiman. This one is Neil Gaiman and Sam Keith's omnibus.
And Mike Dringenberg.
Yes, I think he did the inking on that, didn't he? Or was he?
It just says artist, but yeah, I think I know the last issue.
He takes over as artist after Sam Keith leaves.
Yes.
Does he? Okay,
Yes,
yeah. Preludes and Nocturnes, which is the first arc of the famous Sandman omnibus.
Mine says the New York best-selling author of The Graveyard Book and Coraline. When I see Coraline, I think, oh, that's the best-selling author of The Sandman.
Right.
They definitely have that wrong on my.
So I wonder when that was printed, because now I see that and I would
This
think
is
about,
a new one I just picked up.
Yeah, like American Gods and stuff has gotten.
I actually got this off the shelf this week because all I had is the giant book that you're looking at that you have
the Bible.
The Bible version of it, and I didn't feel like digging that out and having
I like
to
the word grimoire.
Grimoire. I like tome. I mean,
the leather bound version. As this book should always be. Yeah. So I picked this up just because I didn't want to mess with having to deal with the giant grimoire, so to speak.
I'm actually curious about this. So let me set the stage real quick. So we're going to take you guys back to what I think, and again, hindsight being a great opportunity to make mistakes. I think it was 1993 when this book started. Does that sound about right? That's so.
I believe so.
The
It was
copyright,
early 90s.
yeah, the
anyways.
copyright in my books, like it goes back to 1993, but this is a printed edition, like a collection, so that's not always accurate. So take it back to 1993, where Vertigo
According
Comics.
to my book, he started pitching this to Karen Berger in 1986.
Oh wow.
1991 is my earliest copyright.
Okay.
Actually, originally published 1988.
Okay. So
Which
1988.
sounds more right because that's about when the imprisonment ends. So,
all right. So 1988 is when this came out. Is that, yeah, like I said, like looking at things in hindsight when you only have collected editions, that's a great opportunity to get stuff wrong.
before we get into that, I wanted to discuss this. I read part of this. I didn't read the entire forward by Karen Berger, but she's talking about how when she came to him, and I just want to point out this part, when he came to her, the only thing he had really written at that point was a short Sandman, as far as comic books, was a short Swamp Thing story,
Oh, he was a 2000 AD guy.
as far as she was aware at the
Oh,
time.
got it.
So in her realm of what she had read, all she had seen was and she said he had all the talent in the world, but didn't really feel like he could flesh out something so massive.
Yeah.
And ultimately, there was a Sandman book going on at the time when he presented it to her, and so she came back to him later to allow him to do it. But she was very apprehensive. She said if it had turned out like she thought it was going to turn out, it wouldn't have been what it is. But,
Well, and Karen, like, there's some editors where you would just scoff at that and be like, "Oh, you almost passed up on Neil Gaiman Sandman." But when Karen Berger has issues with it, I mean, there's something there. I mean, she's arguably one of the best.
it
best
wasn't
editors
that
in the
she
history of comics.
It was that she didn't have faith in this guy that was just getting his feet wet in comics, in her viewpoint, to take on something so massive. And she, at first she was like, it's just a story about dream sickness and I don't really know what's going on, but she stuck with it, and thankfully she did. So,
Well, reading Neil Gaiman's part of the forward, he says that, when she asked for a story from him, he pitched a John Constantine story.
yeah, he did.
And
she says
she was
that
like,
too.
yeah, and she's like, no, that's about to start up already. And then she's like, you had mentioned Sandman last time we talked. Why don't you do that thing? So I thought that was interesting.
You got options.
Yeah.
And I guess he was a,
Prose.
no, he was in news. He was writing newspaper articles. He was a reporter.
yeah.
And she said that he hounded her like a reporter would every couple of months, calling to ask where they stood on any of the projects he had pitched to her.
Nice.
And so then when she met with him, she was like, he was nothing like I imagined. This polite, nice Englishman was nothing like I had imagined the guy that had kept hounding me.
That sums up Neil Gaiman from what I know of him pretty well, though. He is very, very soft-spoken, polite guy. But I can imagine, like, with an idea like this that's clawing its way out of somebody's brain, they're like, no, like, checking in every chance they get. So, originally published in 1988, as we've now discovered, Craig alluded, he said this earlier, I've got the giant omnibus version, which is the big leather-bound book, really cool. Actually, I think, Craig, either you got this for me or you conspired with my husband to get this for me.
I just told your husband what you wanted.
Yeah, I knew you had an influence in me having this book on my shelf.
He came in and asked me which one to get for you, and I directed
You sure that
him
wasn't
towards
me?
I don't think.
Maybe it was. I don't know. I can't remember.
Who knows this time? You guys are just one big bald spot
All,
on the other side
all
of the
bald
table to
people
me.
look alike.
You do. You both have beards.
I'm the fat one. He's the muscular one. That's how you tell.
I'm gonna have to write that down on my forearm so I know for next time. But so I want to hear about these versions that you guys have, because you each have different, and yours only contain the Prelude and Nocturne. So this is just the first arc of it. So tell me about these different versions that y'all have. I know you said yours has a forward by Karen Berger. Matt, yours has a forward by Neil Gaiman himself. It sounds like
Neil Gaiman, Karen Berger, and Patrick Rothfuss of all people. Really? Yeah, he's got a long forward in here about his introduction to comic books and how The Dark Knight Returns is what ignited his super enthusiasm to get him into what he read next was Watchmen and then Sandman. And he says that Sandman, in his opinion, is the best comic book story he's ever read.
Yeah,
I'm pretty close to believing.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks who would share that sentiment for sure.
Yeah.
We're absolutely sure.
So mine, like I said, it's the new version. It says, and I got it off the shelf this week, so I'm sure it's not more than 6 months old. It's the fully recolored edition, whatever that. I mean, I'm assuming somebody went through and recolored it.
I don't like that. That bugs me.
It depends.
I mean, I didn't notice any difference, to be honest with you, but it's been so long since I read the first. It has a foreword by Karen Berger, and it's got an afterword by Neil Gaiman,
Very cool.
which I'm going to be 100% honest and say I did not have a chance to read because I thought I could read all of this book in one sitting, and I made it, but man, it was hard.
I was going to say, that takes work because this is a very...
It's a dense story.
It's a very dense story, from issue to issue.
And what's being set up is stuff that's going to play out throughout however many issues it was. I want to say somewhere around 130 or whatever, without going and looking. But the one thing she says is that she wasn't really sold till the 7th issue, which is the the diner issue.
24 hours.
Yeah. And that's when she was like, oh, this is something different. So
so for me, it would have been the third or fourth issue, the Hell issue, where that happened, where this was something that we'd never seen before. But I want to know with you guys, what was your first experience with Sandman? Because mine actually happened, like mine is relatively recently. Like I read Sandman for the first time about 4 years ago when, like I said, Roger went to Craig and said, hey, what should I get Caleb for something? And he was like, this. And thankfully you did, because I'd never read it before. So, like I said, first time, 2019, 2018 that I've read this. And I've read all of this tome, but I have not actually finished the series. So I've got to read the second and the third grimoires to be done with it. But what did you guys pick this up as it was? So it would have been, late 80s. Were either of you like actively reading comics back then?
I was, but I was way too young for this.
Yeah.
This wasn't on my radar. I was buying comic books at the grocery store.
Gotcha.
This ain't one of them that was there.
yeah.
So
Yeah, mine's fairly new as well. I wasn't actively reading comics when this came out. When I came back to comics in the early 2000s, it wasn't even on my radar then. A friend of mine had it sitting on his shelf at his house, and I asked him. He said, a friend of mine lent that to me. He says it's the best comic book he's ever read, because I haven't read it yet. And then later, when I moved to Central Arkansas, in the local comic book store owner recommended that I pick it up. And in fact, he does this quite often. If it's something he really likes, he'll give you that guarantee.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, bring it back and all.
Yeah. Either trade it for something else.
Yeah. And so I read it, and man, it instantly grabbed me right at the beginning, and sat down and I read all 3 grimoires within, I want to say, probably 3 weeks.
Wow.
I just sat down and consumed it.
That's work. Man, you had to have been like exhausted.
It was just my free time. Every time I had a free moment, I would open it up. And when we say grimoires, these things are 3 inches thick?
6
2.5 2.5 inches. They are coffee table books. You pretty much have to lay them down on the coffee table to read them.
stop a bullet.
They will. They 100%. Matt called it the phone book when I walked in this morning. They are, because they're huge, and there's 3 versions of this. If you stack them up on top of each other, they're almost a foot high.
Yeah.
Not 9 to 12 inches high. It's insane how much.
Yeah. So I just sat down and read it. Every free moment, all of my spare time went to reading this.
Yeah.
And I probably need to reread the whole thing because I read it so fast, because it was one of those that it intrigued me so much and sucked me in that I just kind of burned through it. But I'm, willing to say I probably missed little hints and little things throughout it, and need to reread the entire thing.
Well, but you'd be excused. Like this is one of those stories that. So reading it for this show, this was the 3rd time I'd read these first couple of issues. And you'd be excused for missing stuff, because this is really one of those types of stories that every time you read it, you will discover something new within its pages, within the art or within the words, or you'll notice something that the way that the words are orchestrated or laid out on the page that is sending some type of message that wasn't there before. And because things change in your life, like the book is written in such a way, and this is what's really genius about Neil Gaiman and his abilities as a storyteller to write stuff that's really evergreen. As your life changes in real life, there will be experiences that you have that will color the way that you read this story, and new things will happen. And that's why I think three people can sit down at this table or any given table and have a conversation about this book and have massively different takeaways. Not about the plot and where it's going. I mean that's kind of that's what it is. But just in what the messages were being conveyed and the tone and the tenure of the story. It's fascinating because it really is. And I think to that end, you have to give Karen Berger a lot of credit for that too, because Neil Gaiman has written a lot of other comics. He's written a lot of other books and stories, but he's never written anything to this caliber before. And I don't think that I'm not giving somebody else credit for his work, but that effort that she spread all across Vertigo, she's one of the most important figures in the last 60 years of comics.
So one thing I'd like to talk about is the editing on this.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got something that's this massive in somebody's head, and you're the editor on that, and you don't know what the entire story is, and you're trying to edit this to make it presentable on an issue by issue, because this isn't like it's a novel all coming out at once. We're talking a book once a month for 130 something months. I mean,
with wide-ranging, widespread, all kind just craziness.
So the trying to edit that and allow them to still freely tell their story must be a monumental task. So credit to her for sure.
I feel like you have to have a lot of faith in your creators to do that.
You do, which was why she was scared.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know him, really.
Yeah. So, well, all right, this first issue, the very first one, it's called Sleep of the Just from Sandman, #1. This is where it all kicks off. As I said earlier, this is written by...
I want to see him hold that book like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to. My arm is definitely getting tired.
This is goes through. Would you like one of the trades so you don't have to hold this?
No, I'm good though. Okay. Written by Neil Gaiman, drawn by Sam Keith.
Working out at the same time.
Yeah, I've got the one strong arm. Mike Drenberg does some of the arts. Todd Klein on the letters. Daniel Vazzo on the colors. This story this brings us up to speed, right? Like this takes us through the last history and there are some things that you need to know about Sandman, or Dream, or whatever you want to call him. Morpheus, Sandman. Yeah, he's got a number of names.
As he says, I have many names.
This gets you kind of up to date on how he got himself into this pickle. He's one of the endless, right? Like he's the god of dreams. He's the god of the dreamscape. But on Earth, there is a... I don't know really. I wouldn't call them a coven. I don't know if they're warlocks. They're just a secret society of people that dabble in the magics. I mean, they're at one point he makes a joke about Alistair making fun of him. So he's somebody who fancies himself to be of the caliber and degree of people like Aleister Crowley.
Well, they definitely have some magic because John Constantine later we find out knows who they are. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, this is. I really like that. This is the setting for this book, this time during when Aleister Crowley was so active, because that's a fascinating world. This Aleister Crowley world, this occult-ish, this occult circles in England. They all had their own little occultish cliques, and they all hated each other, because they were competing in each other for who is the most powerful wizard. And this touches on that, which I really appreciated. Actually, I looked up. I was like, is this a real dude? Because I looked up to see if this character was a real character from the... No, he's not, unfortunately. Yeah. I was so wanting it to be a real...
that would have been great.
One of these lesser-known wizards from the this time period. Because they all did have their own grimoires. They all had their... And they would occasionally get into wizard fights. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean...
So LARPing, basically.
Can you imagine? Except they really believed it. And they would chant, there's this one... I'll touch on this because it's too good not to mention.
No, we can play anything.
At one point, Aleister Crowley, when he's a young man, and, he's got his followers in England, and there's a rival wizard in town, and he decides he is going to attack his rival and extinguish his power. And he essentially breaks into his house. and he's marching up and down the stairs doing the incantations, and the rival wizard walks up and punches him. Calls the police. Just, it's amazing.
So his protection spell failed.
Yeah, his defense, I would say, was not effective.
It's not high up on the dark art. Well, to be fair, Aleister Crowley was more of a sex magic guy. So, if he didn't have his member out, he just didn't have that power. His staff was not, glowing, so to speak.
Yeah, so the cool thing about it is that they're trying to capture death.
Mm-hmm.
So...
this group, they are trying to essentially imbue themselves with immortality, right? Like that's to end it for all kinds. And the book, I should say, this starts out in the early 1900s, kind of World War I era.
1916.
And the first issue walks you through all the way up to the late 80s. And you start, not only is it a story about a quote-unquote dark wizard trying to do his thing, who's leading a group, but it's a story about a father and a son. And the father is leading this group. He's the head magician, and he's got his son just hanging out with him. You can't hire a babysitter, I guess. Too many dark secrets. But his plan is for his son to grow up one day and take over this group. And inevitably that is fulfilled. So they do what they have to do, and they capture something they don't really mean to, because they're trying to go after death. But they capture Dream. Except Dream is not in the mood to acquiesce to their demands. Like they're essentially holding him hostage, and they want him to give them power, to basically give them the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. And he's fine. He's content just to sit there. They've got him locked inside a circle, drawn with sand and guarded by people who are methed out for decades because they can't sleep. And they take all of his accoutrement. So he shows up and he's got all of these different things that he needs, his tools. He's got his helmet and his ruby. There's one other thing.
Bag of sand.
Yeah, the bag of sand that he's got. But they take that away from him. They strip him of his weapons, and
it's worth pointing out that all three of those items were made from parts of him, from parts of his soul, and it was so that he didn't have to reach into himself to use his magic when he needed to. But without them, he's not complete. He's a weaker version of himself.
One of the coolest things that I figured out this time, and I didn't catch this last time, is that parts of the helm, he says he carved them from the bones of a dead god. That was metal, number one. But yeah, sorry, you're fine.
The Endless in the DC universe, because these are part of DC proper. It may sound like it's not, but it is part of DC proper. They are above all of the gods in the
pantheon.
The pantheon of DC. The gods are at a lower level than the Endless, according to that Grant Morrison thing that he did a few years back that had everything spelled out, what happens in each world. So, anyways, thought I'd point that out.
No, and I think you're right too, because that just shows you the overarching influence that something like this should have, the impact that it should have. If you take a multiversal god who is in charge of sleep and dreaming, bad things are going to happen across the universe. But because the story really is narrowed down to Earth, because it's a story that's based on the soil, he has to show us what some of these effects are, right? So, he shows us Ellie, this girl who, she's a young girl and she just falls asleep. There's a young boy who it just messes up their sleep patterns.
There's one that was in the war, and
he was going to go over the top. He was 14,
and he kept, everybody else is dreaming, but he's still going over the top to fight in the middle of the night. Yeah. 14 years old in World War One.
And it just messes up everything. I mean, some people are in a coma. Some people can't sleep at all. Some people are locked inside their dreams. And throughout the years, as they can't get what they want, the leader is, a little bit driven crazy. He's obsessive compulsive. He goes down every day to taunt Dream, but he never gets what he wants. And inevitably, the son takes over. And Also, I think one of the cool things to mention is this first issue, the son's assistant calls him love and sweetheart or something one or two times. Essentially, it doesn't come out and spell it, but essentially what Neil Gaiman is establishing is that the son is gay.
Yeah.
And he doesn't make this big grandiose deal about it.
Well, he calls him his assistant. But
Right.
assistant is bold when it's spelled out in the book. So it's very clear without, like you said, without making it
Ham-fisted. It's not
Yes.
ham-fisted.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's important because he's queering the story. And I use that word like in the literary sense because he's letting you know that there are going to be gay themes. And as you go throughout this entire series, this becomes a very important book to gay representation, queer representation in comics. I mean, the first comic I ever read with a trans character was in the pages of Sandman. One of the stories that I think we get to in this one has a young lesbian in it who's just having issues with finding her girlfriend and stuff. So the influences and the presence of queer people are very important to this story, and so he plants those seeds.
Well, what's funny is when they're casting for the new Netflix show,
Yeah,
people are mad that they've casted a female for Lucifer.
yeah.
And, woke culture, blah, blah, blah. Neil Gaiman's response is Sandman's been woke since it came out in 1988.
Never underestimate the ability of people to miss the thing glaring in front of their face. I mean, these are people who are surprised X-Men's about racism. So,
Well, I mean, in just going biblically, angels are genderless.
Sexist.
So, yeah.
well, and for fuck's sake, they use David Bowie as the reference. Like, if you see Lucifer in this, it's either Tilda Swinton, who nobody was aware of at the time, or it's David Bowie. So, all right.
That's let's move on.
Once again, we're talking about the comments on the internet.
I'm personally just talking.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was it's been woke since 1988 comment that I was going for.
So by the end of the first issue, what we are left with is a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like you've been introduced to
Indeed.
Happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've been introduced to some of these mainstay characters. You've been introduced to some characters that you're never going to see again. But you've really got the main points of the ongoing arc. Is that Sandman is pissed because he's been locked up for literally decades. B, he's lost his power, like his tools. He hasn't lost his power, but he's lost the things that anchor his power and that promote his power.
So I think it's worth talking about how he actually gets out.
Yeah.
Because, so what happens is they say between caffeine and methamphetamines, the guards are not allowed to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the guards are on rotation because one of them's talking about going on vacation the following week. Then he starts talking about where he's going. And he falls asleep on the job, which then gives Dream power because somebody's asleep in his location near him.
Yep. Not only that, the son who is an old man at this point, who's taken over his father's duties, shows up in a wheelchair and gets mad because he's again making no headway. Wheels his wheelchair around in a fit of rage and breaks the chalk line. So I also shots. I feel like this is a little bit of a funny kind of shots fired moment commentary. The guard, when he falls asleep, do you know what book he's reading?
I didn't.
Stephen King's It.
Oh, nice.
It puts him
I
to
didn't
sleep.
catch that.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So when the old man is there talking to him, he says, "Are you ever going to say anything?" And all Dream says is soon.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's the first thing he said in decades.
Yep.
But when Morpheus realizes that chalk line has been broken, that essentially there's a crack in the force field.
Yeah. He doesn't say a word. He
passes out. He does something he's never done before. He goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Or at least he makes it look like he's going to sleep. To which, the guards freak out. They go get everybody because something new has happened, and they come back to find out what's going on. Has he finally died? What's happening? To which he springs an attack, puts them all to sleep. Pretty much does what he wants with them.
Well, I let the one guy says, I guess it was the old man says, we were trying to capture death, not you.
Yeah,
it was just an accident. He said, "Boy, am I glad for the sake of this pitiful planet that you got me instead of her."
Yeah. It would have been an annihilation event if they had done this to her. But by the end of it, he has gotten out of this cage, so to speak, and he dreams himself up a pretty badass, Lost Boy style trench coat, and starts setting about the business.
Pretty sure that his look is derived from Robert Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Of The Cure.
I don't know. I can see a little bit of that.
That's like, yeah.
It looks like standard goth to me.
Yeah.
It looks like Neil Gaiman. If you look at Neil Gaiman of today, if you look at Neil Gaiman,
there's definitely some.
Yeah, I think that he was definitely patterned after here. So at the end of this issue, though, now that we've established kind of these characters and the plot and where it's going and stuff, I think we have to talk about the art a little bit too. I was always, Sam. I knew Sam Keith from like Sam Keith that did Wolverine, right? I knew Sam Keith. That's where most
people, got
Image,
their start with him.
These really crazy Image characters. This look was a different Sam Keith look than I'd ever seen.
But when it's Sam Keith, it's obviously Sam Keith.
You pick up on those little things that make him. But like I'd never seen. There's one page in here where people are dreaming, and you've got Marilyn Monroe and Elvis and John Wayne, and I think Bela Lugosi in the background, where he's doing these photo references and stuff. I'd never seen Sam Keith do anything like that. It's and the way he depicts all of these characters, especially Morpheus, when it's these up close images, is very, very loose, very scratchy. I mean, it's I don't know how to like. There are no lines. It's all just
no lines.
Well, no, so on these depictions of like the up close on that particular one, uses a lot of just very, very heavy inking, and it doesn't have the lines that you might know him from his other works. He leaves a lot of negative space in those where he's just showing Morpheus.
Well, how much of that is because of the inker?
It could very well be. It could very well be. You see more for me, and we'll get there. But I see more of the Sam Keith, like the kind of iconoclastic Sam Keith, in when he starts showing the demons in hell. Like that design and that style, that to me starts screaming, okay, this is the Sam Keith that is solidified as Sam Keith in your brain. And that's just for me personally. Y'all may not have that experience, but everything else, this was just a totally different experience from what I'd known before. So, you guys got any more thoughts on this kind of second or the first issue?
Just the way that he punishes the son of the guy that imprisoned him, which is that he's going to be in a waking nightmare for the rest of his life, which won't be long, I'm sure, but he's awake, but he's dreaming the whole time, and it's pretty horrific, and you start to see some of that Sam Keith grotesqueness that you reference later with some of these images. But one of my favorite parts from this is when the kid that was going over the top in World War I, when during the sleep sickness, it says the whole reference is he went over the top because he went insane. It was just like, man, what Gaiman does with sometimes very few words is pretty amazing. So,
well, it's because he spends the whole story building it. I mean,
so it's really a foreshadowing for the way the entire book is something that's said on page 1 is then again referenced 10 pages later. Well, something that's said in issue 1 may have consequences in book 100.
Yep.
It's just the way this story is. We talk about it all the time with Hickman nowadays, but Gaiman was one of the ones to perfect that art.
Well, we think about it now, it's so rare because everything is 6 or 12 issues, right? But when we had long-form stories, and again, Gaiman is probably a great example of it, like one of the best examples of it, but when we had long-form stories, I mean, you go read Constantine. Constantine's full of that, too. I mean, you give somebody 100 issues, Swamp Thing. That's similar stuff, too.
Yeah.
All right, so issue 2 opens up with 2 familiar biblical characters. We have Cain and Abel, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually start seeing we're going to see Morpheus return to his kingdom, and he's going to start setting up his plan to regain all of his materials and to put himself back where he was before he was captured, to enact his revenge, so to speak. As the issue goes forward, we're introduced to a character who has been imprisoned in Arkham Asylum. This is where we start to see really the kind of first taste that this is in the DC proper universe. And the character that we see, it shows us Arkham, and a guard is leading a woman into the bowels of Arkham, and because somebody's imprisoned there, and it's not somebody that I've been familiar with. Or have you guys ever seen this character before?
Dr. Destiny.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him outside of this comic.
So he's somebody who is there because he had gotten a hold of, cut right to the chase, he's gotten a hold of the ruby that Sandman had, and he used it to his own ends, and he warped it, and he bastardized it to give himself power to kind of take over the world, unsuccessfully, which is why he wound up in a prison. And so he's going to be the main villain of this ongoing arc. And we meet him in the second issue. Morpheus's kingdom is decrepit. It's broken down. In his absence, it's been left to rot. He's got to start rebuilding it. He's got to start doing the work that he needs to do to unravel 70 years worth of his absence and worth of the dream sickness. He does this by getting a hold of the Weird Sisters, the mother, the maiden, and the crone, and he brings them forward because he needs to know where his tools are. So he's able to ask them 3 questions, one each, and only one each. They will not go beyond that. And the answers that he gets, sets him on the path to lead him on his way.
Typical quest, the beginning of a quest journey here.
My favorite part of this second issue is the relationship between Cain and Abel.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, just the fact.
Just open your present. Just open it. It's going to blow up, isn't it? Why do you keep killing? I mean, it's just amazing because what do they call themselves? The First Story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they call themselves the First Story. So that's because Dream is the keeper of unfinished stories, which is why Lucian has the library, which is also in disrepair now.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, also the first sin, that those two are representative of that, of murder.
Yeah.
Just that. Well, I guess the first sin would be eating of the tree, but murder's like a good number 2, right?
Eating of the tree,
or eating of the fruit of the tree.
forbidden fruit.
It's
forbidden knowledge.
I bet it was juicy. Anyway, so at the end of the story, Cain has killed Abel again, and Abel has come back again. But at this time, Abel at least has a little friend that's going to come along with him for a ride. And
the little gargoyle.
What a miserable life this guy lives.
Knowing his brother's just going to kill him randomly.
Repeatedly.
And he's like, I can feel my joint or my bones sawing against each other as I climb up the hill, but it's still better than being dead again.
All right, so the third issue. This is where I feel like the rubber really started meeting the road in this. Matt, this is probably the story that I imagine in my brain that you enjoyed the most. I could be wrong, but I'm curious to hear you say about that. Your thoughts on this. But this is where we get John Constantine.
I love the John Constantine part.
I did too.
Loved it.
Yeah.
So John Constantine wakes up. John Constantine's not exactly the early to rise kind of guy. He's doing what all he needs to do, getting himself together. He's just kind of being John Constantine, but Morpheus approaches him, and because Morpheus knows of his power, right? And Morpheus knows of his legend and needs to know.
Well, Constantine had the bag of sand.
Yeah, he had one of his tools. And so he goes to him, but Constantine has given it away. Or, he didn't really give it away. It was taken from him.
By an ex-lover.
Bad relationship, broke up, cleaned out the...
He couldn't figure out how to use it anyways, and she was another magician, and she just took it in the split up.
And she turned it into dope.
She turned it into dream dope, I guess. That's a good way to put it.
So
Talk about horrific, though. This is where you start... I mean, you've seen it a little bit, but you really see it in this issue.
The grunginess of it all, it really strikes me in this issue. And so they're tracking it down, right? They're trying to find this bag of sand.
So there's a really funny comment, though, before they leave when Constantine says to Morpheus, I can't go out in public transportation with you looking like that. So Morpheus changes his clothes to more match Constantine's. And Constantine responds with, "I've got a big green friend you should meet. He doesn't have a sense of humor either."
Yeah, I like that. I like that line.
That whole section just made me laugh. So
Sam Keith gets the chance to just show off artistically in this. I mean, he does in every issue, but it just gets really nasty. As they are hunting for this ex-girlfriend and trying to find the location of the bag of sand, like I said, she's a junkie. Like she's gone, but she is. They track her down to basically, a flat that.
I mean, it's a crack house is how you would portray it now, except that except that it's like haunted with living dreams in it. Mm-hmm. Her father's not dead, but his body's pasted to the wall.
Oh yeah, so there's that. Like the skin is just oozing with just ichor. Yeah. There's one where I actually thought we were going to get a little Swamp Thing reference because all like they open up a hallway and it's all like green and mossy and nasty, but it's not that. There's actually demons crawling out of it. Because they say master. It's just she's abused this to no end. And so they finally find her, right? They finally find this woman just broken, just rotted out from the inside in a bed. And she's not going to make it. And this, to an extent, some you could say it breaks John Constantine's heart a little bit. I would say it mildly hurts his feelings. But he didn't hate this girl. He didn't want anything bad for her. He wanted her to just do whatever. And so
as he said, she was the perfect woman for him for a moment.
Yeah, it brings him sadness. So as they collect what's left of the bag of sand, Constantine asks Morpheus, "Do me a solid, man. Make it easy for her in her passing." And he does. He gives her, in her last moments, he sends her to inevitably what she always wanted.
Which was her version of heaven was with John Constantine.
Yeah, so and them living happily ever after, being the thing that she can never have. So this story ends with Morpheus, evaporating, dissipating, going back to his kingdom, and Constantine walking off singing the Mr. Sandman song.
So the one cool thing was Constantine says, "Hey, for how about a little something for the effort here?" I've been having these nightmares. That's my Caddyshack reference, by the way. I've been having these nightmares, and Morpheus says, "Yeah, consider it handled." Yeah, basically, and that's we know that doesn't stick because nightmares always haunt Constantine. So,
yeah, but he's still flexing a little bit, right? Some of Constantine nightmares are of his own making. So there's only certain things that you can do about that. But it is Morpheus. You really do get to see him flex in this issue. I think for the first time, you get to see him like.
Well, he's slowly gaining his power back.
He's getting strong, and now that he's got his sand, like you start to realize
he's a third of the way back to himself.
Oh, and the third's pretty damn powerful, right? Like, I mean, look at all that he's done, or all that he was able to do with that in that moment, and how he's just how much of his confidence comes back to that end too. The fourth issue is my favorite issue in this whole the whole first arc. Now that he has gotten his sand back, he's going to start looking for his next totem, and that is going to be his helm, his mask. Now, if you've read the book, you know that his mask kind of looks like a leather gas mask, like World War II, but it also kind of looks like a death mask.
Yeah, Plague Doctor mixed with a gas mask. It's its own thing.
It's a very cool design. And he knows where it's at, kind of, or at least he knows how to find people who knows where it's at. But here's the problem. In order to figure out exactly who has it and where it's at, he's got to go to hell and back to get it back. And this
can't wait to see how this is done in a television show.
This does not excite him. No one is excited to go to hell, but especially not Sandman. They are not exactly friends there.
Him and Lucifer always had an understanding.
An understanding, yes, but very much that understanding with the coworker who will like if as soon as they can fuck you over.
Well, I mean, it's Lucifer. You can't trust him.
It's really sad that you can't. You think you'd be able to. He's only
you think you would be able to.
The guy runs the kingdom.
He's got a silver tongue. It's
it's unfortunate. But so he has to go to hell and meet up, and his plan is to go to hell and basically call in an old favor. But figure out which demon has run away with his helmet. But here's the problem: the politics in hell. not exactly the way that he left them.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit in 70 years.
Yeah,
so.
things are. It's no longer a monarchy. It's no longer being ruled by the iron fist of Satan himself.
Which Lucifer himself is not happy about.
No, very, very much has an issue with it. As Morpheus approaches the gate, he's greeted by a demon that, again, another nod to remind you that you're in DC proper, but it's Etrigan. The demon Etrigan is just kicking it, and he's going to guide Morpheus to, because he knows who Morpheus is, right? So, actually, at first, he's met by this little low-level demon who's just kind of talking shit and calls him clown. And he's like, who are you? And, how dare you demand to go talk to Satan? Talk to Lucifer himself. That's stupid. And then Etrigan's like, bruh, have a seat.
First Morpheus punches him in the face and tells him to shut up. But.
and then Etrigan comes along and tells him to go to sleep. And
Morpheus is like, oh, cool, you rhyme now. You must have moved up a little bit.
I like the nod to that because Etrigan, when he didn't do that iambic pentameter when it was first invented, but then it became a thing. And Gaiman points that out, just reminding you that hey, Gaiman's also a huge
comic
DC nerd. Yeah. So they go and they go talk to they walk through hell, and you get this is my favorite issue because of the depiction of hell, right? And this is where Sam Keith really, to me, does something I was used to seeing Sam Keith, but also gave me something I'd never seen before.
In a Sandman way, yeah.
Right. And so you just see all of these people in cells. You pass the forest of suicide, or the suicide forest, where he points out that, hey, last time I was here, this was just a small grove, and now it's, it's an endless jungle of people who have committed suicide.
That's what happens when you don't dream.
Yeah, it's just, it hurts, it breaks his heart. He passes a woman who's in a cell that knows him, and he takes on another visage. And she's just like, don't you love me? And he was like, yes, but you're here because I haven't forgiven you. So there's Craig's talked about before. There is this nod to this world
story we'll get later.
And not only that we will get later, but this already happened. So he's giving you this texture of a history there. And eventually you come to the place that is essentially the throne of Lucifer.
How dare they make that person a female? I'm just saying.
So here's what's funny with this. I like to think that they were like this. The look of Lucifer to me when I saw this originally, I think there's some David Bowie there, right? Like there's supposed to be this androgyny to the character.
That's androgyny. I don't see that as female or male. I see that as total androgyny.
At all.
Genderless, just like angels are supposed to be.
This is where somebody did some amazing casting, though, because this was drawn in the late 80s, right? Like, this was not... There is so much of Tilda Swinton's, facial features in this artistic interpretation after the fact that it's insane. And we've seen Tilda Swinton, play, these androgynous people. We saw her play, Lucifer. So
she played Michael.
Michael's who she played. Yeah, Michael's who she played. Sorry. One of the angels. They all kind of look like feathers and whatnot. But that is amazing casting, right? If you look at this, that Tilda Swinton is in that art, to me at least.
The double page spread of all of the demons is just fantastic too.
Oh, it's gorgeous, and that page to me is where I'm really reminded of the work that I'd seen Sam Keith do before, and kind of the way that I imagine Sam Keith in my brain when I see him styled. That's where he just went ham, drawing all these monsters, all of these creatures.
It reminds me a little bit of the Heavy Metal cartoon, or
a little bit, yeah.
Wizards cartoon.
There's a little bit of Jim Henson style,
it's just
wonderful. But so we mentioned earlier that Lucifer is no longer the head devil in charge here. This is now a triumvirate of leaders in hell. They've had to split the baby three ways, and Beelzebub is co-ruling along with Azazel, and so Lucifer's not happy about this, as you might imagine. He doesn't like sharing his kingdom or their kingdom, but they have to do things that way to get the politics of it all to work out. We don't know why. We'll figure that out later. The long and short of it is they know a demon has taken the mask, but they don't know which one. So the lords of hell call all the demons home. Lucifer is able to use his sand to kind of single out who has it. But in order to get it, the demon got the thing fair and square. He won it or bought it off of a human. But the demon's name is Chronozon, really pink-haired, kind of weird-looking guy with two mouths. that wears fishnets.
Well, I mean, by this point, it's probably the early 90s. It's definitely intended to be a punker.
Oh, yeah.
Spiky hair and what they considered punk sunglasses at the time. Even though
looks a little bit like the mutants from Dark Knight.
Yeah.
There's some of that there, too. And so Morpheus has to challenge this demon. Has to challenge him to a battle, but this is not a battle of. This is more of a battle of wits.
It's a rap battle.
It is kind of a rap battle. It is kind of 100% a rap battle. They have to bounce rhymes back and forth, one-upping each other on what they, on the imagery that they're casting forward. The demon starts off, and he's like, and in some way they're playing with pentameter.
Think the battle in Sleeping Beauty, where they like keep changing to fight the other.
Yeah, but they're doing it with their words.
Yeah.
In this type of pentameter. So the first one, he says, "I'm a dire wolf, prey-stalking, lethal prowler," and then Morpheus counters with, "I am a hunter, horse-mounted, wolf stabbing," and they keep going forward this until Morpheus kind of gets a feel for what the demon's doing, and he decides to quit going on the offensive. And so what he does is he flips it and he takes it almost universal, and at the end of it, the demon says, I'm the universe destroyer, everything eater, I'm all nova exploding." And he's like, beat that. And Morpheus says, "Okay, I'm hope." And the story's called A Hope in Hell. So, but just to end that way, to hope being this tangible thing above all, above the universe, above the ability to destroy, hope that life exists. Is the end of that. Wins the battle. Inevitably that demon is going to be punished because he lost, and he's in hell because it's just kind of bad things are going to happen there. But he gets his helmet back. To the very unhappiness of Lucifer. And first, before he heads out, Lucifer's just like, why can't I keep you here? You have no power here. And Lucifer turns to him and says, "What do you mean I don't have any power here? What good would hell be if any of these people didn't dream of heaven?" And the sea just kind of parts for him, and he walks out, leaving Lucifer.
Well, it doesn't imply that hell would be good. There wasn't,
no.
It implied that basically,
part of the torment is dreaming of a place where torment doesn't exist.
Well, that's where ultimately that's what keeps the demons in line, is having that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just, like I said, they part ways, and you get this gap, and he's able to walk out unscathed, making his point, leaving Lucifer just sitting there saying, "Man, one day I'm going to destroy that guy." So that's the first 4 issues of this. Now, do your issues have 4 issues, or do they go for 2 more?
Mine goes for 4 more.
Yeah, I had 8.
Oh, you had 8? Okay.
Yeah, there's 8 issues.
So it's just up to you guys. We can end it wherever we want to. So
I'm cool with talking about keeping going. So I will say that
Caleb's good with still talking.
Touche.
Surprise.
Touche, you bastard. We go back as an epilogue to this, and Dr. Destiny, his mother has died, but has left him an orb, an eye, and so it's a reminder that he needs to escape, or it's letting him know that he can get out and start going back to business of reclaiming the ruby that he's used for all of his villainy. Now, this dude has been buried in a pit for years, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he's been in the basement of the basement of the basement of Arkham. That he is decrepit. He looks like a walking skeleton. He's just nasty. And he breaks out of Arkham. And on the way, he meets a few people, one of which is the Scarecrow, who's hanging from a rope because he wants to scare somebody, but he hasn't actually hung himself. He's just trying to play a trick. And they have a fun little conversation.
So a Scarecrow being the Scarecrow.
Right. Yeah, well, I thought that's what I meant. But he's in prison.
No, I was just pointing it out.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Sam Keith does this really cool thing where he draws the actual mask behind him just to let you know who this is. Kind of looks like Kane too. I thought that was funny because it is, his last name is Kane, and he's a Scarecrow. He's telling him of his idea to escape. He's going to get out and go about his business. And then Scarecrow's like, "Yeah, we'll see you when you get back. We all come back. If you see the Joker, tell him we need him back here. Because we need him here." So it's like this revolving door of Arkham that nobody ever stays in the same spot. You get this great dream sequence of somebody trying to break out of the fourth world. scot-free, looking for his real name, and all the abuse that he suffered while he was in Apocalypse. And then Morpheus wakes him up and just says, "Hey, I need you I need your help.
Yeah.
Like I need you to do something for me.
Help me find my ruby."
Yeah, there's a really heartbreaking scene.
So the last ruby, I don't know that we mentioned it, but it was being held by the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was in,
which is why he went to Scot-Free for help. Somebody that could break into the Justice League.
Well, and who's still part of the Justice League International at this point. That's Scot-Free is a member of that. So he goes to him to say, "Hey, like, where is this?" And what has happened is that the as far as the Justice League, their satellite exploded. It's space dust, and so they put it somewhere. They don't really know where. Maybe in a bunker somewhere, cataloged, because they took it off Doctor. I keep wanting to say Dr. Druid. Damn it,
Destiny.
Dr. Destiny. They took it off him when they kidnapped him. There's a really heartbreaking sequence of scenes in this. Dr. Destiny kidnaps a young woman at gunpoint and then takes her on a drive. And they have this really almost like a therapy session on the way there where they talk to him, they share their lives, their fears. Dr. Destiny opens up to her. She opens up to them. And she's taking him to, he's able to sense where the ruby is. And she's taking him to this place where she's going to reclaim it. And by the end of it, you just know. Like, you just know in your heart, like, okay, he's about to let her go. Right? And then he just shoots her in the face. Just murders her, because that's the kind of cretin that he is. Meanwhile, Scot-Free does not exactly. He
wasn't in Arkham because he was a good guy.
No, but it just lets you know how deranged and dangerous he is. I mean, there's other villains that would have let her go, right? Yeah. But he's not one of them, and he's just a shell of a human. There's no humanity left there. Mm-hmm. He's just decrepit. The rod is on the inside for this guy, and it's made its way out. Scot-Free doesn't exactly know where the ruby is. He needs some more help. So they go knock on the door of the Martian Manhunter, and he says, "Hey, bro, wake up. Besides the fact that it's 3 a.m., we need you to use your powers and your mental prowess to tell us where this thing is." And he said, "Okay." And he's able to locate it. And it's in this town called Mayhew. He's able to give him the last kind of known address and then bounce. And Morpheus goes and says, "Hey, I appreciate it." But the cool thing here is this establishes the universality of Morpheus, because Martian Manhunter John knows exactly who he is. And Morpheus says, "Man, I thought your kind were all dead." And he said, I'm the last one. And he's like, "Do you want me to show you I think it's the Kingdom of Mirrors or something of mirrors from the planet that's long gone?" And he says, I appreciate that. This memory of home, which we all know that John cherishes, because he is the last one. But you just see how as one of the Endless, his span reaches beyond Earth, even just to Mars. But he does have this universality to him. Morpheus follows his advice after he finds out where he is, and he goes to the he tracks them down to Mayhew. He enters this kind of storage unit, and he senses a ruby. He's able to find it. It's hidden in a crate. He reaches in and grabs it, but something's wrong. Dr. Destiny has corrupted his ruby through all number of ways. He's basically nuked it, irradiated it, cast curses on it, done all kinds of stuff in part of his evil schemes. And as soon as Morpheus grabs it, he passes out. Like, he just lays out on the floor. At which point, Dr. Destiny walks in and collects his ruby, and then heads to a all-night, 24-hour diner, assumedly leaving Morpheus just sleeping on the floor, right? Which was kind of weird. I guess he had no clue who this guy was. He just thought he was some dude who broke in. But yeah, and he heads to this diner. I thought this was a cool transitional issue. To me, the best parts of this issue were the drive between Dr. Destiny and the woman. That's where, fairly simple storytelling, but that's where Gaiman does his best work. He does the heavy lifting in there to just break out lots of stuff. Were there any parts about this that really hit home for y'all?
No, I mean, it's just, like you said, it sets up the next issue. It's the one item that Morpheus is looking for that's not kind of a quick one and done.
Yeah.
It takes a few issues to accomplish his goal.
Yeah.
So it's really the setup for the next issue is really what it is, which is
the next
2 issues.
Yeah.
But
one of the things I thought was fun in this was the little bunker or the little storage unit that this was being kept in. It's got all of this old JLA stuff.
yeah,
You see the Joker.
kind of like the Teen Titans Go attic.
It's got and so much of this reminded me of even Bruce's Batcave.
Yeah.
You've got the Joker calling card. You've got the keyhole there. There's a stuffed moose because why not? A tentacle. There's just all kinds of back matter and stuff that's left in there that I thought was really, really fun. And
I mean, it's a storage, right? It's
Yeah.
not really, but yeah, it's crazy.
So all right, so our man Destiny waltzes up in the all-night diner, busts in there, and just for 24 hours wreaks hell on these people. These are new characters. We've never seen them before. One of them said before is a young lesbian. The other one is, you have a character who is the waitress there. Her name's Bet. She is a writer. In her meantime, she writes all these wonderful love stories about the people that she meets. There's a couple walking in that everybody thinks that he just married her for her money, but really they just truly love each other. And sets up all this kind of like Mayberry apple pie stuff. Except for you learn that she's there's one man who's came in there that his wife has died and he's been broken because he just misses her. But his wife died of alcoholism. But you find out they were having an affair.
I was just looking at the inside of the storage. There's somebody in
That looks like
an ice cube in there.
oh shit, Psycho Pirate.
Well,
Oh,
maybe.
That's what it looks like.
I didn't notice. I knew that. I saw the silhouette. I wasn't sure who it was.
When you said that, it made me want to go back and see what all was in there. But yeah, sorry.
Could be Red Tornado too.
Yeah.
Well, Red Tornado's got a.
Oh yeah, he's
emblem.
got the thing on his head.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Back to the diner.
But no, that's what's cool about what Sam Keith does in that is you get all of these. There's so much back matter in there. There's so much to see. You can just pour over the pages. Yeah, so we're in this diner, and through the hours, Dr. Destiny starts warping everybody's minds and just basically ruins their day. Little things like making the guy miss his job interview that he just knows he's going to get. But it gets worse as time goes on. And you start to realize through a television set that this is not just happening in this diner, it's happening across the world. A children's show comes on where a guy has a sock puppet and basically makes the sock puppet slit its throat. But if you know how sock puppets work, he's actually slicing his own wrist, like live on TV. The wife and husband just start to bicker and go at it, and they start dreaming of murdering each other. It's a mental breakdown of all of these individuals.
The guy that missed his job interview cuts off his finger and writes God on his chest.
Dr.
Destiny's
Destiny's chest.
All kinds of great imagery in this.
Well, and it's so effective. It bounces back and forth where he's just sitting in there having a heyday because of the chaos of it all. Just that he knows he's ruining these people's lives in the micro while he's causing insane amounts of death and destruction and globally impacted hell out of this diner. By the end of it, people are gouging their eyes out. They're killing themselves. And as the last hour strikes, everyone in this place is gone. Every one of them are broken. They're all dead. And Morpheus walks through the door. Again, this coming after the issue where the depiction of hell was given to us, the images here
are a different form of hell.
They are. They're in one ways they're more muted because it's all kind of muted colors. There's nothing out of the ordinary. It seems like things that we see every day, other than the creepy guy with his ruby,
and his eyeball.
And his eyeball.
Wearing the eyeball around his wrist like a bracelet and the ruby around his neck.
But showing the very human, like a very human figure cutting off their own finger or gouging their eyes out.
Or the waitress just nonchalantly nailing the guy's hand to the counter.
Quiet. Yeah. Like that is disturbing in a level that no depiction of like an imagined version of hell could be. As these people just nonchalantly, casually destroy themselves. This just gave me gave me the creeps. Also, Sam Keith does something really cool here in the blood splatter or the blood pools of giving the blood pools texture by doing that whole like thing where he takes his brush and he flicks black ink on it. I thought that was a really great artistic way to show that instead of just
or the
showing
inker did
blood. It could have been the inker too, but I think Sam Keith probably had enough directive control over that he wanted that to happen. All right, so we got any thoughts about this? How to treat you? How it felt?
Like I said, just a earthly depiction of hell. If you've ever seen the movie Event Horizon, it's kind of that kind of thing where they're just, torturing themselves just because this guy's in their brain telling them to.
Well, we are about an hour and a half into this, and I think that's probably got to be a good place to end it as we get on to some stuff we're going to read next week. Like you said, your issues have eight stories in them. I think Sound and Fury is the next one in this.
The only thing I would say is the way that ends, to wrap it up at a good spot, is just that Morpheus challenges him to a fight in his world, and he goes there and they fight, and he thinks he can kill Morpheus by breaking the ruby since it's part of Morpheus's soul, but what it actually does is returns that portion back to Morpheus, making him even stronger.
Yeah, sloughs off all of the corruption that he put on it too.
Just so that we can kind of wrap up that storyline without going too deep into the next book, but yeah.
Well, and I would note Sound and Fury, the next story, that's the first one that we don't get Sam Keith. That's drawn by Mike Dringberg, and Malcolm Jones III does the art on that. So
I think Dringenberg became the artist, and Malcolm Jones became the inker at that point.
So wrapping up, like, how did this story treat you guys this time around? We always, we've read this before, we're reading it in hindsight. But what does the story mean to you guys?
Well, I can't say it means anything to me. What really put this over the top for me is Sam Keith's imagination. Yeah. That's what put it over the top. I'd have to say this is my least favorite inker I've ever seen Sam Keith work with. I thought I think it diminished what he could have done otherwise. But that being said, his imagination being put to work in this type of story, I mean, it's hard to in my mind, it's hard to think of someone that could have done it better with his style and just the things that he can dream up and put on a page. So yeah, that's what really hooked me in the first arc, is that type of imagination and artwork with this narrative, this kind of character.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's missing from not this run of Sandman, but any time they went back to this world, is that level. Yeah, that's not to say there haven't been great or good artists on the post Gaiman stuff, but I think you're missing that level of whatever you want to call it, imagination or what it doesn't. A lot of times the worlds don't have that same feel when you go back to them.
Well, it's like Sam Keith was creating something new, right? I don't look at this and we talk about derivation. I don't look at this and see that what Sam Keith created and see any other work there. I mean, on some level, you can imagine some of the great paintings, the high end art that shows hell, that shows different versions of Dante, and that idea. But Sam Keith did something kind of that we'd never really seen before, at least I think, and I'd never seen it. The artists that came after that are really trying to capitulate off of what Sam Keith did. Right?
And for the most part, during the Gaiman run, that happens really well.
Yeah.
It's when we come back to it in post-Gaiman era Sandman stuff that I feel like we've lost some of that. But neither here nor there. The art really did stand out to me this time through it, more so than the first time. Mm-hmm. The story, of course, it's just absolutely fantastic. And this is just the opening to this world. It gets so much deeper than this quest to just get his items back. But the art is a major standout in these first issues.
I've said it before. This is my favorite depiction of hell ever, and that's because of Sam Keith. I would like to know like I would like to, and I'm sure maybe we can Google it or something like that. I would love to see Sam Keith's pages before it were inked. Some of his pencils.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if those were ever, if anybody has those.
I'm sure
that were
they're there
scanned,
somewhere. But
because I would like to know what influence the inker had on it. Some of this I like how loose and sketchy and scratchy it is, but the other ones, like I said, you really see where Sam Keith, like, just is Sam Keith, and he pulls out that quintessential style. For me, as much as I love the art, it's the hindsight of the story for me that is the most important part. Like I said, the influence of queer characters being shown blatantly and defensively as people. Being done in the late 80s, that didn't happen, right? Like, that didn't happen in the 90s very much. That didn't happen in 2000s a whole lot. It's starting, we see that more and more. But for this to be such a iconic book, an iconic story, to have Neil Gaiman include, lesbian characters, gay men they're obviously gay men, but the story's not about their queerness. It's something else, how they're just living their life, how they are part and parcel of the texture of this world. That to me meant something.
Yeah, well, it makes, for me, those kind of elements are in a book of this time period and before, is it just makes the story feel that much more subversive.
Yeah.
And that's something I really miss in comics, is the subversiveness of it. So I like going back and reading these old books that have those touches in it, because it just hits, it just lands differently than it does today. Now It's just become almost cliche. So but back then it was really something.
Yeah.
It really set your story apart and just gave it a completely different underground type of feel to it.
Yep. This is something that's beyond, like, it's not even that it's beyond the mainstream. Like, it's not even most substreams. Counter.
Oh no, there was, during this time there was a lot of underground comics dealing with this stuff.
Howard Cruz was doing work at this time. You had all kinds of stuff happening, but
but not in the DC universe. They
No.
weren't. This kind of stuff wasn't happening in the DC universe.
No, but what I was saying is, like, they were all specialized, it seems like. And so it's actually funny, because I just got through reading the biography of Howard Cruz, and he talks about how in this era he got pushback from the things that he tried to write because they weren't sexual. Like, they he was trying to write stories were exactly like this. Queer people living their lives and the kind of their textures. And he was a little bit of a satirist, right? Like, most of his stuff had a funny humorism to it too. But he would get pushback because it wasn't sexualized, because it wasn't porn. And so even in queer comics, where you have people like Howard Cruz, you have even Playboy published a gay story at one point in time in a cartoon form. You didn't see a whole lot of this, like as far as them just living their lives. So that's where I'm saying this is subgenre. For that time, because people, when it was queer, they wanted it to be porn, and this is not what that is. So that's the takeaway from my end on that. I really appreciated it. It's a classic. Like, as far as if there's a pantheon of comic stories, I think this is up there.
It's way up there for me.
Yeah.
It's my favorite American comic.
Is it? Very cool. That's big. And I can see why as well. And it stands the test of time, really, really well.
It stands the test of time because the things he writes about are timeless.
Yeah.
So
I appreciated that Craig came up with this idea and got us to bounce back and talk about this.
Well, we've been talking about doing Sandman since the inception of the show. So, and to be quite honest, coming up with a topic for the Chaos episode is a bit of a...
It's always difficult, yeah.
It's a bit difficult. I think we're just going to have to just really go chaos in the future and just not have a topic.
I'm up for
sit
that.
Down and just go.
We can do that.
Just like the whole thing started as a bunch of dudes sitting around at a table at the comic book store.
So the agenda is no agenda.
The agenda is no agenda. Real chaos, Caleb.
I can get down with that.
Can you handle that?
I can handle that. I can make that happen.
I don't think you can handle it.
That's not to say that occasionally we can't drop in and do a book like this.
No, for sure.
Because these are some of my favorite episodes to do, to be honest with you. But...
So I would love for our listeners to give us some feedback on this episode, because I'm kind of like you. These are some of my favorite episodes. But sometimes I feel like when I'm doing this and I'm just kind of regurgitating the plot, like, I'm always kind of scared that I'm like it's boring. Like, so I don't really know how else to do these.
I think that there's enough interaction that it's not just you regurgitating the plot. I think Matt and I
No, you and I wasn't saying that y'all weren't there.
I mean, we all know you're boring to listen. No, I'm playing.
I'm not a fun person, but no, I always do want to make sure that at least what we're doing is entertaining too.
Yeah, let us know if this is something you like, because this is something we like doing.
Yeah.
It's really the heart of what Southern Fried Geekery should be, or what it started out to be. Not to say that what we're doing isn't a derivative of that.
Yeah.
But this was really the heart of it all, was three guys sitting around talking about comic books.
Going back to the beginnings of it.
Hey, let's talk about this book. And so
I likes it. I absolutely likes it. So
every now and then we have to reimagine the show, keep it fresh.
That's what we're allowing you two for. You guys let me know when I'm getting stale, because I don't know. I get caught up in my ruts. As always is the case, we are going to land this plane by giving you some ideas of what you might pick up this next Wednesday or Tuesday at your local comic book shop, or if you are able to ride the waters that is Comixology, bless you for that, because it's terrible now. But however you get your comics, as long as you're getting them legally and you're paying for them, that's all that matters. And we're going to tell you about some books that are coming out next week that we want you to grab. We think will be worth your while. So I will start, as always, with my brethren over here. Tell me something you are going to grab.
That threw me off. I will start, as always, by my brother. I'm going to recommend New Think by AWA.
Okay.
Did you guys know that AWA stands for Artists, Writers, and Artisans?
I did.
I don't believe you.
That's what it says right here. I didn't know it. It's Greg Hurwitz, Mike Diodato, and Rahaza. This is a Black Mirror style anthology. I'm recommending an anthology. I'm expanding my base, guys.
What did you put in his diet, Mountain Dew?
I'm not telling you. That's between me and my gods.
So anyways, Black Mirror is a pretty cool show. So if it really follows that sort of mind-bending, futuristic tech, then I'm down for it.
Very cool.
So I'm going to recommend issue number 2, Red Sonja, subtitled Red Sitha. I talked about issue number 1 recently. That was a surprise hit for me personally. So I'm looking forward to number 2 on this. This one is by Mirka Andolfo, Valentina Panini, and Young Win Yoon.
So is Mirka doing the writing on this?
Yeah, she's doing. This is the second Red Sonja book that she is doing.
Okay.
Sitha has discovered that they are still alive, prisoners of a band of marauders in the deserts of Namidia. On her way, she will find an old acquaintance, the thief Kebra, spinning directly out of the hit Red Sonja series by Mirka Andolfo and company. So I just, this character is what sold it for me. The story is the story's not anything special set in this fantasy world, but this character I really like a lot, much more than I thought I would. I thought it would be frankly, I thought it'd be a throwaway spinoff series. But
see, you're doing like Craig. You're branching out, trying new
We're
things.
becoming better people, Matt.
oh, I wouldn't give myself that much credit.
No, you loved that first one. So I mean,
Yeah.
and it sounded like when you were telling me about it, the plot's awesome. I want folks to go pick up a little book from our buddies over at Scout Comics. The book is called Code 45. It's being written by Benjamin Hunting with Joe NG on the art. It's literally, his last name is the letters N and G. So I don't know how.
It's not Ing?
It could, well, like Dustin Wynn is Dustin Wynn, so I thought about that, but I don't know if it's maybe Joe. I have no idea. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I'm just going to say NG for now. This story takes place in Montreal, and there is a young woman named Vanessa, and she's a metro driver. She starts hearing about all these dragons that are just bebopping around in the tunnels. You know how
Bebopping around.
New York has the gators in the sewer. Montreal apparently has dragons kicking it down there in the shit water. She's kind of terrified by these mysterious and horrifying apparitions, and which causes her, to kind of go into self-medication, and she loses the ability to tell the difference between reality and fantasy. Pulled in deep by the underground raves that blast through the city's abandoned stations, Vanessa quickly finds herself on the verge of crossing into a dark world she never knew existed.
What?
I like Scout Comics. I like those. I like that company a lot. They produce some really cool stuff. Indie creators getting their foot into the step ups to the larger mainstream stuff. Really good stories. And I'm always down for like a rave in Montreal. That sounds cool. I say that I've never been to one, but I would like to think.
Assume it's the most polite rave ever.
I would. Can I hold the ecstasy for you, ma'am? Have some water.
It's Montreal. That's the least polite of all.
Oh, that's right. That's where the mob is in
Oh, is it?
Canada. That's right.
Oh,
Canada.
well, those guys at least hold your coat while they put one in the back of your dome, right?
Possibly.
That's rumor mill.
That's just so that they can have it afterward, like Marv.
Makes it easier to pick the pocket.
I like Marv.
Oh, that's right.
That's a nice coat. It'd be a shame if you bled on it.
Yep. Oh, Marv. Well, all right, folks, go grab those books. We will let you know what we think of them. Hopefully in the future, because we're gonna go check them out too. We hope you've enjoyed this little dive into the world of Sandman. Do yourself a favor, read it in its entirety. Go devour all of it. It's worth it. The number of artists.
This is a self-contained story in its own. This first volume.
Yeah,
but don't stop there.
No. The number of artists that you see in this book that are just world-class artists are great. And the story goes in places you'd never expect it to. It will make you laugh. It'll make you cry. It'll make you feel all kinds of ways. Kind of like this podcast will do. And so, where the nuance is just thick. You can just wade in it. That's like Jesus walking on water. That's how thick it is. Come back next week, same time, same place. We will be here. We will be glad to tell you about some more stuff that we have read. In the meantime, go forth and love some comics.
Are we recommending Obi-Wan?
Oh, we're definitely recommending Obi-Wan.
Yeah. It's on the... Roger won't let me watch it without him. And so that's why... I almost said that yesterday.
No, that's not what he said. He said it was not high on his priority.
Not on my priority list. No.
Yeah.
So you don't get to backtrack now.
Yeah.
But on Roger.
Crawfishing is what we call that in the South.
Yes.
Crawfishing. Blame the guy not in the room.
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah, look, I married him. I get to blame him. That's part of the contract, right?
Ouch. Wow. I don't... Yeah.
He can say that because Roger's probably not.
Maybe they have different contracts.
No, if Roger ever listens to this podcast, I've got a lot of apologizing to do.
The hook at the end of episode 2 is pretty incredible.
Okay.
I mean,
it's worth watching alone for Ewan McGregor's acting, playing a tortured Obi-Wan, and I'm not going to say much more than that, other than he fights a giant flea.
A giant flea.
All right.
See, he gets the joke. Outside of that, his acting alone in this is worth the price of admission, which you're already paying for since you have Disney Plus. So it's nothing. It's really, really. Honestly, it's some of my favorite Star Wars of the new content at this point, and it's only 2 episodes of 6 in. So
very cool.
But I think it is the hook at the end of the 2nd episode that's like, oh, can I have the 3rd episode right now, please?
Oh, so they are doing it like they're coming out with it like
one a week.
Episodically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Disney does that with all of the... Yeah, they just did the 2 at the front because, quite honestly, that hook was required. And, I mean, not to make it... I mean, because it's good without it, but that hook really... But also because they wanted it at Celebration, they were allowing people to watch the first 2 episodes. Very cool. You got in the queue and got to go in and watch it, so they released it at the same time. So information didn't get out ahead of time.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you got your stamp of approval. That makes me happy.
I mean, it's Star Wars. But Obi-Wan is definitely worth the watch.
Raj wants to watch it. Literally, we're gonna. Whenever he has time, we're gonna watch it. So, and I'll see it then. So. All right, kids, we outie.